fans, there is, of course, cause for celebration tonight after a sixth championship that came harder than the others. But there's some anxiousness mixed in as well. Who knows how all of this will play out, but it's certainly possible that tonight we saw the last of the Chicago Bulls as we have known them. And whether it ends here or sometime in the near future, it'll be noteworthy not just for the breakup of one of the great teams in sports history, but because given the present structure of pro sports, it may be quite a while before we see anything like this again.
There are a lot of ways for a dynasty to die. Age, neglect, the failure to replenish and recycle, the vagrancies of free agency, utter and complete stupidity of an owner. What we have with the last dance and death of the Bulls dynasty is nothing short of murder, calculated and premeditated. On January 13th, 1999, Michael Jordan announced his long-expected retirement from basketball. And the Chicago Bulls dynasty his presence created vanished like a snowdrift in a Chinook wind. To dismantle the Chicago Bulls. However, there's a long history showing that we have to begin the story 14 years before the demise. In March 1985, Jerry Reinsdorf became the owner of the Bulls and gave all management power to his beloved Jerry Krause. Reinsdorf didn't know much about basketball, and Krause was his brain. Krause began his career as a basketball scout in 1961. He discovered a lot of baseball and basketball superstars. Now he got a chance to run the Bulls. Not more than a year after, Michael Jordan and Krause clashed. This is how everything started. Jordan broke his foot earlier in the '86 season, and Krause sent 3 specialists to examine the injury. They said there's a 90% chance of re-injuring if Jordan returns in the season. Jordan ignored doctors' advice. Krause showed up with a tape recorder in a meeting with MJ and doctors. Jordan got furious about this. Another session, now Jordan with the tape recorder. They don't want me to play. So they missed the playoffs again and tanked the team. Get a high draft pick. Krause turned to Michael and said, "You're gonna do what we say. You're our property." That was the time young MJ realized he was in a business. But Jordan came back. The Bulls made the playoffs. He scored 49 in the first game and 63 in the second game against the Celtics. The second crackdown was 2 years later when Krause traded Michael Jordan's best friend, Charles Oakley, for Bill Cartwright. Jordan was in Vegas for the Mike Tyson fight when the trade happened. And there's the Phil Jackson side of the story. In '87, Krause picked him as Doug Collins' assistant. 2 years later, the team was his. He was the third coach the two Jerrys hired since 1985. Jackson had winning teams in the CBA. CBA? What does it stand for? Cockroach Basketball Association. Jackson was a classic Krause hire because he virtually was blacklisted from the NBA because of his oddball reputation and had languished in the CBA 5 years. Jackson's staff, the originator of Doberman defense, Johnny Bach, and Mr. Triangle, Tex Winter. Success came early. The Bulls won their first championship in Jackson's second year as head coach. Jordan, Pippen, and Jackson bonded a big brother-little brother relationship. They went to wars together. Phil ran Triangle in 3 quarters. Fourth quarter, it was all Michael Jordan. The result, 3-peat. Jordan retires, comes back after 18 months. Bulls get eliminated by the Orlando Magic. Krause, again, built a successful championship team around Jordan that can complement him in his first full season after comeback. Remember, he got Paxson in '85, Cartwright for Oakley in '88, drafted Pippen and Horace Grant in '87, drafted COCKROACH in 1990, got Steve Kerr in '93, Ron Harper became a key player. Now it was time for Dennis Rodman. Nobody wanted Rodman in the league at that time. George Karl said Dennis Rodman was the real Finals MVP in 1996. Accept it or not, Krause was the architect of the Bulls' success. But the battle of big egos continued. You could feel the animosities between the team and the front office in this footage. The Bulls had their best season, 72-10, and minutes after winning the 1996 championship, Reinsdorf sends kudos to Krause.
But more, if you had to give credit to one man, the guy that put them all here, Jerry Krause.
process asks Phil if he's coming back or not. It is his best season. Coach of the year.
This is a question that has to be asked. Do you expect to be back here as you go for 2 in a row and 5 overall next year?
They want me back. If the management wants me back, I'll come back. It's got to be right. It'll be right.
They had 3 Hall of Famers, the greatest coach ever, and the media always asked, will you come back? Every year.
A lot of questions for Jerry Reinsdorf, but the main ones are, will Rodman, Jordan, and Phil Jackson all be back next year?
But right now, I just want to enjoy the moment, the celebration that's going on here, and the visit that we have to Grant Park, and then we'll worry about those things later. Right now, all I want to think about is what this team accomplished and what an incredible job that Jerry Krause did in putting together a team of players that anybody else could have had, that many of whom nobody wanted.
Again, Reinsdorf doesn't answer the question and gives props to Krause.
What would be the reason for any one of the 3 not returning?
Jim Gray is a smart guy and sneaked those questions. It's June 1996, but you could clearly see that the Bulls dynasty couldn't last longer than 2 more years. There was a time coming that Phil Jackson could no longer live with Krause being his boss, and Jordan and Phil were treated so shamelessly and cynically by the 2 Jerrys. Everyone knew the Bulls were on a 2-year plan. Michael was likely around for 2 years. Rodman had a 2-year deal. The Bulls could let Pippen's contract go without having to give him a major deal. Scotty signed his deal in '91, and he was incredibly underpaid, complained about it all the time. In 1998, he was the 6th player in the Bulls salary ranking with $2.7 million, while Michael was getting paid $30 million every year.
You know, from a financial standpoint, from a contract standpoint, he's locked in, and he's very deserving of the same $30 million, 30 whatever I get in the next coming year. He's very deserving of the same contract.
Proudest moment I've had in a long time, and you're the greatest fans in the world, and that's what this is all about. Thank all of you. All right, congratulations, Jerry.
Jerry Krause alienated Jordan, Pippen, and Jackson. Prolonged contract battles and personality clashes caused communication rifts between Krause and the trio. Krause's desire to replace Jackson with a coach who would work more closely with management destroyed the relationship with him. He always wanted to prove he doesn't need Jordan or Jackson to build a championship team. So, Phil Jackson tried to use players and his resentment on Krause to motivate the Bulls for championships. Players versus the management. Sometimes you grow closer out of the things that happen to ball clubs and individuals to bring them together even closer. Tension brings weird experiences to people. This made Krause feel betrayed. He was the one who saved Jackson from the CBA. Without him, Jackson was out of the league. Phil Jackson used tension to succeed. He closed the door to the team locker room at times after games and excluded Krause. In one of Jackson's contract proposals to Reinsdorf, he had a clause inserted that would ban Krause from the team playing and move Krause's office from the Berto Center to the United Center with the rest of the staff. Reinsdorf would have none of it, and the negotiations began to take an ugly tenor. Reinsdorf decided to side with Krause, who has proven loyal to him beyond a doubt. He couldn't be sure with Jackson. Players responded to Jackson, who had the day-to-day frustration of dealing with the meddling boss. Jackson just wanted to coach the Bulls, but Krause would make demands, question Jackson's rotations and use of players. Phil used every tool against Krause. He was a master of controlling people. He was able to manage Jordan, who was a brutal, super competitive teammate that can run players out of the NBA.
Being a champion, being the best in the world, you know, it's a great feeling. I'm tired, I'm weak. I got a whole summer to recuperate.
The Bulls won the 5th title, and if that weren't enough, betrayed Krause said in the '97 training camp, organizations win championships, not players. That was a slap on the players, and Michael took it personal.
I like to see some of those organization guys step out there and play, you know, and I didn't see that also the team step out there and play. Well, you want me to be GM, I guess. Take Jerry Krause's position. Well, I think this team is entitled to an opportunity to continue to be successful. Sure, business has got to come involved. I'm not saying Jerry Reinsdorf is the richest guy in the world. I'm support what this team needs to maintain and be successful. But we've done a lot for this organization, and we've put it in a situation where it could be highly valuable. When I first came here, and I'm pretty sure everybody can tell you that the Bulls team was worth probably $13 million, 15, 16, $17 million. Now it's worth $150 million. So the profits have been made over the years. What we gain now in trying to keep this team together and be successful, we paid for over 6, 7, 8, 10 years. That has to have some consideration, some sense of loyalty. You know, to myself, to Scotty, to Phil, even to the guys who, given themselves over the last 2 years, or even Dennis, with all the different colors that he may wear in his hair or his dresses or whatever. We're entitled to defend what we have until we lose it. If we lose it, then you look at it and you say, okay, let's change. Let's just go through a rebuilding. No one's guaranteeing rebuilding is going to be 2 or 3, 4, 5 years. The Cubs have been rebuilding for 42 years. And that's something that you have to look at, from a business aspect. So if you want to look at this from a business thing, have a sense of respect for the people who laid the groundwork so that you can be a profitable organization. And I'm not trying to twist Jerry Reinsdorf's arm. It sounds like it, though.
It was the Bulls' biggest motivation to win the 6th title. Players started to make fun of Krause in front of the media. One day on the team bus, Jordan said, "Jerry, you can go fishing tomorrow. There are a lot of lakes out there. Don't worry if you can't catch anything. You can always eat the bait." Jerry Krause, the bus was faster yesterday without your fat ass on it. The summer before the '98 season, Jerry Krause had his daughter's wedding, and he didn't invite Phil Jackson, but invited Iowa head coach Tim Floyd. Krause was flirting with him since 1996. He liked hiring coaches with a lack of experience so they could be loyal to him, like Doug Collins in '86 or Phil in '89. Same situation. Who was this guy? The no-experienced Floyd, 44 years old, but a solid track record on the college level. Krause made the decision in his mind in 1996-97, but Jordan postponed it with battling for Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen. In 1997, Jordan and the Bulls front office fought each other and Jordan won. The Bulls kept Phil, and MJ also prevented Scottie Pippen from being traded to the Boston Celtics. Jackson said he had enough, and this is my last year. In the '98 season media day, Krause, with his enormous ego, said, "I don't care if we go 82-0. Phil is not coming back."
This is your last year?
It's very obvious that, they said that Phil's not coming back. He says wild horses couldn't drag him back. And I've always linked my career to that, so it isn't anything that's too surprising to you guys. And if Phil's treating it, and I'm pretty sure the management is treating this as Phil's last year, then I'm treating it as my last year as well.
My position as coach is, in a position that's this year terminated. And, we've talked about that over the course of the year. And that's the way it stands as far as the owner and I are concerned.
Krause and Jackson have had far enough of each other. Also, Jackson has personal family problems. He was exhausted. Phil Jackson handed over players the handbooks of the 1997-1998 season. On the cover, it said, "The Last Dance." Phil told his team, "Enjoy it. Go through it. This is the last hurrah."
Phil, I know you've said that this is your last year as Bulls coach, but would there be any set of circumstances that would bring you back? I read recently where you said that if you were asked, you might say yes, and then Jerry Krause kind of put the kibosh on that and said this is your farewell tour.
Looks like it is. Bye-bye.
He's still coaching? Yeah. It's always a thought, but it's not a thought right now. I basically said everything I've said all season long, in terms of the circumstances. If it doesn't suit me, then, I won't play. I'll leave it as that. I'm not changing. The questions are starting to change, but they're basically the same questions, and my answer hasn't changed, and I'm pretty sure people who've been around me have seen that.
The Last Dance was not easy. Pippen missed the first part of the season due to injury. Jordan had to carry the team. He was the MVP and scoring champ again. In November, Pippen said he didn't want to play for the team again selfishly. He always complained about his contract while Jordan fought for him.
Do you think you're ever going to play for this team again?
I never, saw the day when I would have to turn the other cheek and go the other way. But
If that was the case, it could have been done easily at the beginning of the season. And Phil, myself, even Dennis probably would have chose to go other ways. And, we lobbied to put this thing back together so we can win a 6th championship. And, and he developed those type of feelings, when we all were more or less committed to come back and do our job.
When Pippen was asked of what he thinks the Bulls' legacy is going to be, the smile on his face totally disappeared, and he said, all they're going to remember is Jordan winning championships. But Pippen returned in January and was customarily solid in his role as Jordan's sidekick.
Being an old man at 35 years old, is it different now, Michael? Is the whole thing different? Can you savor any of it now?
You enjoy it, but you savor it whenever you sit down and you have a chance enough to have memories or think about the memories and reminisce about some of the good things and some of the bad things. And right now it's too early to even think about life.
It was a strange season, but the Bulls were in the finals again, the 1998 finals. What a storybook ending. Game 6, the greatest game ever seen anyone play. When you watch what Jordan did, Rodman was finished all year. He was like luggage. Pippen got a bad back. He can't move. MJ knows he has to win the game. Can't have Game 7 in Utah. He knows I have to control every minute of this game. I have to control every piece of my energy in my body. It has to be played out in a certain way. Have to pick my spots. Michael put the offense on his shoulders, and it was absolutely the best in the final minute. His drive to the hoop, to his stripping the ball from Malone, to his hitting the winning shot, to his dreamlike stroll around the court. He dominated the play and the replays in what would be a perfect farewell if he wouldn't return to the NBA.
Margin, speaking of the Utah Jazz, there are so many things to look back on.
Players versus the organization. Phil Jackson and the players were victorious against the two Jerrys again, the 6th time. And 1998 summer, it was a high-stakes poker game between Jerry's, Jackson, and Jordan. Everyone bluffing. June 23rd, Phil Jackson didn't want to raise from his $6 million contract and announced his resignation. Got into his motorcycle and he was gone. I gave him my body and mind, but I have kept my soul. Jordan learned the news in his basketball camp. It's a good time for him to go, but he'll come back on his own if he has to. It's his decision, not mine. Just like they talk on the phone. If that's his choice, that's his choice. I respect Phil. A week later from their famous hug in the championship game, this was the first crackdown of the Bulls' demise. Jordan wanted to play more, but he wanted to go out on top with the skills undiminished. He said he could maintain this level of play for at least 1 or 2 years, but Jordan made it clear he didn't want to play for anyone but Phil.
For a comment like that, it appears that you would like to come back next year.
I never said I didn't want to come back. That was never the question. I'd love to come back, but I mean, within my own circumstances.
How many times you want me to say it? I'll say it one more time. If Phil's not in Chicago, I'm not playing. That's all it is. Nowhere.
He was leaning toward not coming back and said he wouldn't officially announce his plans after the lockout ends.
A lot of sympathetic feelings about, this team and where we want it to go. But as time, gets involved, I mean, some of the feelings may change. You never know. But I think that's the purpose of waiting until the end of the summer, or maybe in the summer, and making final decisions.
The Bulls' 12-man playing roster, 9 were free agents. Pippen, who was undervalued and underappreciated, repeatedly said he'd play somewhere else when he became a free agent. Jerry Reinsdorf knew and even admitted that if Jordan leaves, Jackson doesn't return, Pippen cannot be re-signed. The Bulls will be 17 and 65. Krause also knew that Jordan would play only for Phil Jackson and his college coach, Dean Smith. In summer of '98, Jordan found himself in another triangle: Jerry's, Tim Floyd, and Phil Jackson. So one Thursday afternoon, Reinsdorf and Krause announced Tim Floyd as the director of basketball operations. Floyd and Krause were close friends. They said, If Phil Jackson wants to coach the Bulls, then we certainly want him to coach the Bulls. They expected people to buy these words. The decision was made a year ago. They were trying to bait Michael Jordan to come back and play.
I'm so proud of these players and his staff. And this is for the fans back in Chicago, the greatest sports fans in the world. And we're just so happy. We're going to celebrate safe, guys, and we'll be home tomorrow morning.
Besides the hatred on Krause, Phil Jackson never liked how management dealt with him. If you are really serious about the greatest coach ever in your team, you don't a year prior make the pronouncement that it's the last deal you're gonna do. You don't all of a sudden say you're thinking about bringing him back after winning a championship. At age 35 and 6 championships, Michael Jordan simply didn't deserve Tim Floyd. From day one, Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman disliked the idea of playing for Floyd. They had no desire to be a part of the rebuilding effort. Rodman called hiring Floyd a joke. Jordan derisively called him Pink, as in the rock group Pink Floyd. They even made Floyd say, "The loyalty between Jackson and his players is so strong, I'd be willing to step aside if that's what Jackson and Jordan wanted me to do." You'd hate for Krause to have that satisfaction. He looked like a man who finally won the battle against Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan after 3 years. The hiring of Tim Floyd as coach came as the boldest move being played in a poker game. Reinsdorf and Krause were gambling that Jordan can be bought. Imagine Phil calling Jerry's bluff and saying, "Okay, I'm coming back." You can imagine the look on Krause's face.
I hire general managers whose job it is to pick talent, and they are better trained at picking talent than any coach or any player. And the only thing I ask is that they get everybody's input and consider everything. But the general managers have the final decisions.
Owner Jerry Reinsdorf and GM Jerry Krause were determined to prove how smart they were by building a championship from scratch. So first, they had to destroy the franchise, shamefully and senselessly. In January 1999, Jordan retired. Free agent Pippen was re-signed and traded to the Rockets. Kerr and Longley were traded. Dennis Rodman declared himself done with basketball, but later signed with the Lakers. The Bulls were dismantled systematically simply to satisfy a couple of raging egos. A decade's worth of domination purposely, coldly disassembled in a handful of days. What a shameful, ignominious demise. What a shabby, disgraceful way to treat the fans. In 1999, Reinsdorf and Krause discovered how irreplaceable Jordan was, because what separates Jordan is not his skills, but the way he elevated the performance of everyone else. What happened to the Bulls? They became the Cows, again like before Jordan in 1984. Krause resigned in 2003. They still have no success.
I hope and pray that we